My son got $53 million and threw me out. Days later, he was begging for my help. Hello everyone, this is my new channel, and with your support, I'll keep sharing real stories that touch the heart and inspire the soul. Stay with me on this journey and let's keep these stories alive together. The kitchen clock ticked like a hammer, every second heavy in the silence. Dot sat at the end of the long oak table, her hands folded neatly, her back straight the way her late husband always admired. Across from her, Ashley scrolled on her phone, the blue glow washing her face in a light too cold for the warmth of the room. Rent's due tomorrow, Ashley said without looking up. Her tone was flat, casual, as if she were talking about a utility bill, not the fact that she was charging her husband's mother to sleep in their guest room. Dot didn't flinch. She just nodded once, the way she had learned to do, quiet, efficient, unremarkable. From the doorway, Marcus appeared in his work shirt, still smelling faintly of engine grease. He didn't meet his mother's eyes. Ash is right, Ma. Don't be late this time. Then, almost kindly, as if that softened the words, you know how tight things are. Dot lowered her gaze to her lap. In her purse by her chair, tucked between coupons and receipts, a lottery ticket rested in its sleeve. The numbers were hers, always hers. The date of her wedding, the year Harold came home from the service, the birth of her boy, the day she buried him. Every number was a bead on the rosary of her life. She said nothing. The silence was safer. Ashley finally set down her phone and leaned across the table, her bracelets clinking. We're thinking of finishing the basement, she announced brightly. Make it nice and cozy for you down there. More private. More space for us upstairs. Dot's chest tightened. The guest room was already a cell, stripped of her quilts and family pictures. A basement would be worse, cold, windowless, a place for forgotten things. But still, she nodded. The clock ticked on. Ashley smiled, satisfied, and Marcus kissed his wife's cheek before heading back out the door. Dot reached for her teacup, her fingers steady though her pulse wasn't. She took a sip, tasting only metal. She thought of Harold, his laugh, the way he used to hold her hand when storms rattled the windows. She had promised him she would never let their life become small. Her thumb brushed the edge of the lottery ticket in her purse. Not yet, she told herself. Not yet. The next morning, Dot rose before the house stirred. Habit carried her through the motions: put on the kettle, lay out cereal bowls for the grandchildren, fold a basket of laundry that wasn't hers. Her slippers whispered over the tile while the rest of the family slept upstairs in comfort. The house smelled of lavender detergent and stale coffee grounds. It had once been filled with the scent of Harold's pipe tobacco and fresh bread, back when laughter echoed through the farmhouse they had built together. Dot kept those memories tucked away like pressed flowers, too fragile to bring into the light. She paused at the back door. The sky outside was still violet, the first blush of dawn breaking over the flat Iowa fields. She used to love mornings like this, quiet, expectant, alive with promise. Now they only reminded her how small her world had become. A single room. A daily list of chores. Rent notices slid across the table by a daughter-in-law who smiled too brightly when company came. A thud above her made the ceiling shiver. Children's feet. Marcus's voice, low and sharp, telling them to hurry. Then Ashley's laugh, high-pitched, rehearsed. The sound carried down like a performance meant for neighbors, not for family. Dot straightened her shoulders. She could bear the weight of it, as she always had. Still, she found herself touching her purse again, checking that the ticket was there. Not because she believed in miracles. Harold had called it her hobby, her harmless ritual. But this slip of paper felt different. It felt like a secret door she hadn't yet opened. When the family finally came down, Ashley breezed into the kitchen in a silk robe. She plucked the folded laundry from the counter and dropped it back into Dot's arms. Could you press these too? The dryer just doesn't cut it. Her smile was sugar-coated, but her eyes sharp. Marcus trailed behind, adjusting his tie. He gave his mother a quick glance, then looked away, guilt flickering and vanishing just as fast. Dot held the clothes against her chest. Of course, she murmured. Her voice didn't tremble. As the door shut behind them, the house fell still again. Dot stood alone in the kitchen, the silence thick as fog. She looked down at the shirts in her arms, then at the purse resting by her chair. For the first time in years, she let herself wonder, what if? The television glowed in the corner of the kitchen, left on for company while Dot ironed. The anchor's voice was cheerful, too loud for the quiet room. Last night's Powerball numbers are in. One winning ticket was sold right here in Iowa. The jackpot, $53 million. Dot set the iron upright, steam hissing into the silence. The numbers scrolled across the screen in bright white. She didn't breathe. One by one, she matched them in her head. 11. 24. 32. 45. 59. And the Powerball, 19. Her knees nearly gave. Those were hers. Every one of them. For a long moment, she stood frozen, the fabric in her hands forgotten. Her heart thudded in her chest, too loud, too fast. She reached for her purse with hands that weren't steady and pulled out the ticket. The thin slip of paper looked ordinary, fragile even. Yet as her eyes traced the numbers again, the air around her seemed to change. The room felt larger, brighter, alive with possibility. Dot pressed the ticket against her chest. Harold's face came to her, his crooked smile, the way he'd teased her about her lucky streak. She could almost hear his voice, "Don't be afraid to live, Dot. Not when you've earned it." A laugh bubbled up, strange and breathless. She sank into a chair, staring at the ticket like it might vanish. After 2 years of being spoken over, pushed aside, treated like a burden, the universe had finally whispered back. But then the floor creaked overhead. The sound of Ashley's heels on hardwood. Marcus's heavy tread following. Reality slipped in like a draft. What would they do if they knew? Dot slid the ticket back into her purse, pushing it deep beneath receipts and folded grocery lists. She smoothed her skirt, forced her face calm, and returned to the iron. Steam hissed again, covering the sound of her quickened breath. Ashley swept into the kitchen minutes later, already scrolling through her phone. "Mom," she said, too brightly, "don't forget to scrub the baseboards today. We've got guests this weekend." Dot's fingers tightened on the iron's handle. She glanced at her purse, the secret burning inside it. For the first time in years, she didn't nod. She only whispered, to herself more than anyone else, "Not much longer." Dinner that night was a performance. Ashley had set the table with polished silverware and cloth napkins, humming as she moved about the kitchen like a hostess on television. Marcus poured wine, his shirt crisp, his smile strained. The children were upstairs, their laughter faint through the ceiling. Dot sat at her usual place at the end of the table, her purse hanging from the back of her chair. Inside it, the lottery ticket pulsed like a heartbeat. Ashley lifted her glass. "To new beginnings," she said, her voice syrupy. "Marcus got approved for the home equity loan today. We're finally moving forward with the basement remodel." Her eyes flicked toward Dot. "Your new room will be ready by Christmas." The words landed like a sentence. A basement. A concrete box dressed up as kindness. Dot's throat tightened. She managed a thin smile, but her fingers curled around her napkin until the fabric wrinkled. Marcus cleared his throat, avoiding his mother's eyes. "It'll be good for everyone, Ma. More space upstairs. Privacy for you too." Ashley reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "And once that's done, maybe we can think about a vacation. Somewhere sunny. God knows we deserve it after the past few years." Dot caught the flicker of exhaustion in her son's face, the way he leaned into Ashley's script as if it were easier than fighting. She felt the old ache, the boy she'd raised, now a man who couldn't look her in the eye. She set her fork down, her voice steady. "And how will you pay for all this?" Ashley's smile sharpened. "The loan covers most. But you know, every bit helps." That social security check of yours could go further if we were smarter about it. She said it sweetly, but the blade beneath was clear. Dot inhaled slowly. She thought of Harold's calloused hands, the years they'd spent building a life brick by brick. She thought of the silence she'd kept, the nods and murmurs that let them treat her as furniture. Her gaze drifted to her purse. She could almost feel the ticket humming. A secret, yes, but also a choice. She could keep nodding, or she could stand. Ashley raised her glass again, her bracelets chiming. To the future, she said. Dot lifted hers too, the wine trembling just slightly in her hand. Yes, she whispered, her eyes steady on Ashley's. To the future. Inside, a storm gathered. The living room buzzed with voices and the flicker of the television. The local news anchor repeated the story of Iowa's winning ticket, a smiling graphic of $53 million filling the screen. Ashley perched on the couch with her tablet, scrolling through articles about the jackpot. Can you imagine? She said, laughing lightly. If only we'd been the lucky ones. Dot sat in her armchair, her purse at her feet. She kept her hands folded, her face calm, though inside her chest something thundered. Marcus dropped onto the sofa, loosening his tie. 53 million, he muttered. That'd change everything. Pay off the loan. Get out of this dump. Finally breathe. Ashley leaned against him, her eyes darting to Dot. If we ever had that kind of money, we'd make it work for all of us, wouldn't we? Family first. Dot felt the weight of her silence pressing down. For 2 years she had swallowed words, nodded through insults, carried burdens that weren't hers. She had learned to make herself small. But tonight, the ticket in her purse burned like fire. Her hand slipped into the bag. She unfolded the slip of paper slowly, carefully, and set it on the coffee table between them. The numbers stared back under the lamplight, plain black on white. Ashley froze. Marcus leaned forward, his breath catching. That's, he started. The winning ticket, Dot said quietly. Her voice was even, steady. My numbers. My ritual. The room went still. Only the hum of the television filled the silence. Ashley reached for the ticket, but Dot's hand covered it first. Her eyes lifted, sharp and unflinching. Don't. Marcus looked at his mother as if seeing her for the first time. His mouth opened, closed again. Ma, what are you saying? Dot rose from her chair, the paper still under her palm. I'm saying I am done being your tenant. Your maid. Your afterthought. This ticket is mine, and it will not save you. It will save me. Her words hung heavy, final. Ashley's face twisted, her charm cracking into something feral. You can't, I can, Dot said, and the strength in her voice startled even her. She lifted the ticket, folded it once, and tucked it back into her purse. For the first time in years, she stood taller than them both. The night air was cool as Dot stepped onto the porch. Behind her, the house still echoed with voices, Ashley's sharp protests, Marcus's stunned silence, but she didn't turn back. The purse was snug against her side, the ticket inside like a secret heartbeat. The gravel crunched beneath her shoes as she crossed the driveway. She had walked this path thousands of times, always heading back inside to serve, to swallow, to survive. Tonight, every step carried her farther from that life. At the edge of the yard, she paused. The field stretched endless and dark, the stars sharp above them. Harold used to point out constellations on nights like this, his hand warm around hers. The sky's a map, he'd tell her. You just have to know when to follow it. She closed her eyes and let the memory steady her. She wasn't leaving with anger in her chest. Not bitterness. What filled her now was something quieter, stronger, freedom threaded with grief, but also with promise. Behind her, the screen door banged open. Marcus's voice carried into the night. Ma, wait. Please, Dot turned. Her son stood in the doorway, shoulders slumped, face pale in the porch light. For the first time in years, he looked young again, like the boy who used to chase fireflies in their yard. Her throat ached, but her voice was firm. I loved your father with everything I had. We built something out of nothing. I won't let what we built be turned into chains for me. Marcus's lips parted, but no words came. Ashley's silhouette appeared behind him, rigid with fury. Dot lifted her chin. This is my life, Marcus. Mine to finish. Mine to live. She didn't wait for his answer. She stepped into the dark, each stride steady, the night wind cool on her face. At the corner of the road, she stopped once more and looked back. The house loomed, warm light spilling from its windows, but it felt small now, like a stage she had stepped off for the last time. Dot pressed her hand to her purse, to the folded slip of paper that had given her more than wealth. It had given her a voice again. She whispered into the night, soft but certain, not small anymore. And then she kept walking.